Painting a literal and figurative mural can be a recipe for success in entrepreneurship, business, and telling the stories of others. It's a formula of success which has paid dividends for Alexander Leonard. He's the founder of AL Media, an award winning creative company which specializes in telling the stories of nonprofits and social enterprises. Alex is also pursuing his master's in environment and sustainability at Western University and has some strong views on what we all need to do to protect the environment. He joined me this week to talk about creativity, the environment, and climate change. I'm Kevin McShann. Let's have this conversation. Alex, if you're ready, I'll welcome you to the program, and I'm excited to talk to you about the environment, your business ventures, and all about your personal life. So great to see you this evening, and thanks so much for being here.
My absolute pleasure, Kevin. Thank you so much for inviting me and for having me as a guest on your show.
So, Alex, I know that keeping you busy these days, you're running your own sort of creative company, media company called AL Media that has to do with telling stories of nonprofits and social enterprises. So, I'll start you off by asking you to tell me a little bit about your business, how it works, and the inroads you're trying to make with the platform.
Absolutely. It's a great question. So I am the founder of a company called AL Media, as you've graciously introduced me into the program. Essentially, what I do is create video content as well as paint murals for a lot of nonprofits as well as social enterprises and growing to medium-sized businesses that are either in a state of transition or a state of growth, providing coherent media that can really amplify their story both externally as a brand but also internally to help motivate their employees through that murals that can really exaggerate and really enhance who they are, but also through video content that then they can use in a greater communication strategy to showcase what makes this brand so unique. So some of the clients that I've worked with in the past would be the YMCA, Reimagine Company here, Reimagine Co. here in London, as well as the Village or the Chalet now as it's been changed out in Grand Bend. And I've done work as well internationally in countries like Sri Lanka, Thailand, and the UK.
And Alex, I'm wondering, as a successful young millennial entrepreneur, what do you think is the key to sustainable success in business from your perspective?
Hmm. Yeah, it's an interesting point. What is the key to sustainable success? I personally would have to say that what I found that makes a business grow and stay alive. Everyone's heard the stats that 9 out of 10 businesses fail within their first year. I'm thankful enough that every year I've seen growth, and in 2021 will be my third year. So I've beat the odds already. But what I found has been the key to that success is having a mentor. And it's something interesting, actually, that I heard the other day is, as I said, 9 out of 10 businesses fail within their first year. but businesses who have a mentor are 70% likely to succeed and actually, stay in existence for 5 years on. And for me, having mentors and having coaches and people around me who I can share my ideas and talk about challenges has been so, so important, because that's how I've grown and that's how I've been able to overcome roadblocks, or, get through bottlenecks in my company by hearing other people who have that impartial perspective.
And I know that you're also a graphic novelist and visual storyteller. So I'm wondering where your passion for the written word and storytelling comes from. And I know that it's a big catalyst for your business as well.
Yeah. So I would say that a lot of my passion to share organization stories really stems from the fact that when I was younger, I loved writing creative stories. I loved, you know, talking about unique uh, adventures and ways to bring to life characters from my head. I think I spent a lot of time in my room just playing with toys, and I think that this really helped foster a creativity that now has come to life through the marketing and through the business aspect. Um, when it comes to graphic novels, again, when I was younger, that was always something that I made. I loved to make comics at the time. That eventually evolved into original series that I've made that was it's called the Titan Chronicles, and it's still an ongoing series. I've shifted away from that, to be honest, as I found that the return on investment is not the same, that I would put a lot, like years, literally working on these comics, and this longer graphic novel, and then try and selling them for $10 a piece just wasn't worth my effort. And so I really shifted that focus from making small tangible pieces of art to focusing on large scale artwork that I've found, had a higher return on investment. I could, you know, really make that in a much shorter period of time. And it was much more public facing as well. So there was a higher chance of exposure of getting, referral business for myself as an artist by taking a route as a mural artist, and still being able to express my creativity. But instead of using, a tiny pen and making illustrations, I now use a paintbrush or a spray can and have expanded that horizon.
And I'm curious to get your thoughts on what do you think is the key for any successful young artist to not get saturated out of a market and to stand out?
Yeah, that's actually a really good question. So, how can a young artist stand out today in an oversaturated market? And I wish I had for you, Kevin, that golden ticket piece of advice. I think it is really challenging, and it's something that we all kind of face today on a constant basis. Um, and you know what? I saw a motivational quote actually that I took a photo of it because I was like, this is awesome. I need to share this with my friend. So I'll read it to you right here. And I think that these words are very inspiring to me and really hit home. And I think touch base on your question. Your competition isn't other people. Your competition is your procrastination, your ego, the unhealthy food you're consuming, the knowledge you neglect, the negative behavior you're nurturing, and your lack of creativity. Compete against that. So for me, the number one thing is people who are non-starters, who see everyone else doing everything, and that they decide to not even bother because they think that it's too saturated. My suggestion would be just do you and be authentic to who you are, because there will always be an audience for you. As long as you're authentic and you speak to your fans and you reply to people, people will always want to see what you're doing, and that will grow. But if you just give up or you lose interest or you become overwhelmed by the amount of people out there, it's super frustrating. And I face that. I think we all face that to a certain extent. I by no means am the most successful videographer, nor the best, nor am I the most successful mural artist. And there are people who are doing what I've done and done it way before I have. So everything that I do is just an iteration of what's been done before. What I think sets me apart is the fact that I'm very true to myself and I'm very committed to my goals. And that no matter who else is out there, I will always try to realize and work towards what those goals are, despite what is that noise out there of, more successful or more influential people. I try not to get too boggled down by having that imposter syndrome and really just focus on staying true to myself and staying true to doing what I know I need to be doing tonight and just taking things bit by bit.
And I know the second part of your interest or focus in life is protecting or advocating for the health of our environment. I know that you're currently getting your master's from Western in environment and sustainability. So I'm wondering if I could also get your perspective on what do you think is the biggest challenge currently affecting or affecting our environment, and how do you think we can combat it successfully?
Yeah. So I personally think that one of the biggest challenges facing our society right now is of course climate change. And climate change is such an abstract thing for, I think, anyone really to understand, because it's so tangible. When when it's snowing in like June, or when it's like 20 degrees Celsius in like the middle of December, like you cannot deny that the climate is not changing. To say otherwise is just pure ignorance. However, what I think people often struggle with is the magnitude of this as an issue, because it seems so colossal and so inevitable at the rate of consumption and the rate of what the capitalists would title progress, that the climate is going to change one way or another. The climate has changed, right? It's how do we now deal with that rollout? How do we now deal, because we've passed that point to no horizon? So I think one of the biggest challenges is the fact that we are living in an age of people who just can't fathom the fact that more needs to be done. I think a lot of people just think that they don't have a significant role, and I think everyone wants to shift that blame. So I think it starts with both the people and corporations trying to take responsibility. I am a I'm not a pessimistic. I am an optimistic. I do think that we will overcome this. However, I do think that there's a lot that will impede it, and it will be a slow route to progress, and things will get a lot worse before they get a lot better. I think, kind of on a more tangible way to describe this, some of the biggest issues I see is, I think three kind of main pillars, the main pollutants. Um, One being our consumption of animals, particularly red meat, I think is terrible for the environment. Two, the reliance on fossil fuel vehicles, the fact that people need to get from A to B. I think that is a huge problem that we will need to overcome. And three, I think it's a reliance on consumerism and plastics and disposable items. I think there's so much trash out there, and just like it's just yeah, it's sickening to really when you think about it.
And what do you think is your greatest hope, or what has you most optimistic about effectively protecting our environment?
Hmm. What I think makes me most optimistic is that despite the fact that we've never been through anything of this scale or severity in the past, what makes me most optimistic is human intelligence and innovation. I think that we will be able to overcome this because the existence of the human race depends on it. And I think there's a lot of smart people out there with a lot of great ideas. And collectively, if we all, can put aside our differences and can put aside hate and racism and bigotry, that this world will be better. And I do believe that we are in a way forward to this idealization, of this utopia where climate change is no longer a problem, and we all can coexist happily. I think that this is too much of an ideal, to be honest. Humans have never ever had such a idealized state of existence, but I think we're moving towards it. And I think if we never reach it, that's fine. But we're moving at least in the right direction.
And as a young entrepreneur and someone who is active in promoting the causes that are important to you, I'm curious to get your reaction to, uh, as a young professional, what do you think has been your greatest achievement or shining moment in life so far? And what's the greatest hope that you have for your future?
Hmm. So I would say one of the greatest achievements that I've had in my life so far has been creating the documentary that I made this year. To be honest, that was I think that was something that was very true to myself. It's something that I've wanted to do for years, and despite other achievements in life, that had a lot of setbacks. There were a lot of times where I tried to start it and something happened. My computer would crash, without going too much into the grains here. Having finally had the time this year and the motivation to finish my documentary, Humans and Elephants, which is a film all about the impact of tourists in Asia within national parks and how that is damaging the wildlife and habitat for elephants. And then also on the flip side of that, the relationship that locals have with wild elephants and the conflict and increasing conflict in many South Asian countries. This film was 7 years in the making. It takes from footage I had myself, as well as from the amazing team that worked with me, all the animators, the musicians who are behind this film, the people who helped coach me along the way. That to me, I think, is one of my pinnacle achievements in life so far, just because it has spanned across several years of my life. And I'm pleased to share with you, Kevin, that this film has now been selected as official selection in the International Vegan Film Festival, as well as most recently in the Colorado Environmental Film Festival. And I've been nominated for an International Peace Award because of my work on this documentary. So I think that the recognition that has come with this film to me is a sign of the power and the influence of creating positive change through media. Um, the second part of your question was, what am I most hopeful for moving forward in my life? I think I'm most hopeful to help create an environmental change to help motivate other young adults and to be a mentor just as I had myself, which I found so critical to my success, to continue sharing the lessons that I know, the advice that I know, to help people who want to help the environment, because I see that again as the most pressing issue of our time, dealing with climate change. And I know that, no one will be perfect, but if we all do somewhat, if we all are just invested in something. I remember, I'll share this with you, Kevin, because I like this story. I remember a professor I had once, a really amazing professor. His name was Ian Riley at Concordia University, which is where I did my undergrad. But I remember speaking with him in his office hours, and he said to me, he goes, Alex, I want you to find that corner of the world. He's like, there's so much you can learn. There's so much information out there. So find that corner of the world and master that corner. Become an absolute expert in that one thing. And once you've done that, then turn around, turn your back on that corner. And what you will see before you is the entire reality. Is everything else there. The possibilities of what you can do are infinite. But start with that corner.
Well, congratulations on all of your recent and upcoming accomplishments. Getting a film in an international film festival isn't easy, so I commend you on that, buddy. So
Thank you.
congratulations.
Thank you. And may I ask, Kevin, I know it's your interview, but for yourself, what what have you found to be one of your proudest accomplishments in your life, and what do you hope for your future?
A large part of my work, Alex, has to do with promoting inclusion and acceptance for people with disabilities. A lot of people have called me an inspirational person just by the way that I go about living my life. So I think the greatest impact I've made to a society in general is promoting the need for acceptance of all people, particularly with making sure that our special needs community uh, becomes employed. Um, so I always relish in the successes of others that I have had a direct impact in achieving success for, because I think anyone that lays the foundation for future generations is not only opening up avenues for acceptance for themselves, but for other people. So I think that's uh, the largest part of my life's work so far.
That's amazing, man. I really like to hear that, and I think you're doing an awesome job.
Well, thanks for the compliment and thanks for the question. But I'm also curious to know. I know that painting murals is also a big part of what um, helps you find your inner center as an individual. So I'm just wondering if you could provide some perspective on the common influence that painting murals has on yourself and sort of finding your inner uh, your inner uh, advocate advocate for yourself, so to speak.
Yeah. So to understand your question, how does painting murals, how is the process of painting murals a way that,
Therapeutic for you, yeah. How
yeah,
is
yeah, totally. Okay. Sorry to cut you off there, but yeah, that makes sense. Uh, I have found that a lot of a lot of the way that I've painted murals has often been a reflection of my own lived experience. So right now, for example, when I am when I am working on this upcoming mural, which features so there's two murals. It's actually one of my biggest contracts ever. I'm super excited about this. Um, There's two murals. One is a complete illustration of the city of London and all iconic landmarks around London. And the other mural is kind of like a word bubble wall where it's London in the middle. That's a bit more kind of graffiti style esque, but around it is all the names of the neighborhoods of London as well as municipalities where the employees at this company work in surrounding towns and such. Um, in something like this, as I design it, it is therapeutic for me because when I'm painting those letters, when I'm writing this, it it relates back to other artistic expressions that I've had, or it relates back to lived experiences. To give you an example, when I am say writing the word Arva in this word bubble mural, I envision the experiences I've had as a being in Arva. I am projecting that through my hand into the brush on the paint on the wall, so that to me it's not just the letters ARVA, it encompasses Arva as a place in space-time. Likewise, when I am say illustrating say a building, whether it's an actual, landmark building, or if it's simply just a generic apartment building with windows. That to me is not just an apartment building with windows, which it could just be a generic apartment building with windows. I now reflect back on every other time where I have made an apartment building with windows in my artwork, from the graphic novels to other murals to paintings, whatever it may be. And so for me, I encompass that experience and that knowledge of, well, this worked well, and making it in this way on this slant, or using this design to show balconies for say an apartment with windows, like that this was a cool aesthetic and I want to bring that aesthetic back. So it's therapeutic in that everything I do is essentially a reflection of who I was and what I've made in the past. And I'm always in a process of, self realization and adaptation of my, former work, and how that can live through and be improved on future work in the present.
Thanks for sharing that. And my final question for you, Alex, is for you, what's the best part about living in London? And what do you like to do for fun away from work and away from painting?
Yeah, awesome. So I think that the best part about living in London, personally to me, is the community that's here. A lot of people complain about London, to be honest. A lot of people say that, this is just a student town or families, and London's racist. And, I acknowledge that as a white male, I have a completely different lived experience than, somebody who's a person of color. And so I acknowledge that coming from London, having grown up here, having made a network here, has helped influence my positive experience being in the city. Um, so for me, what's the most beneficial thing about being here is is the fact that I'm close to family, the fact that I'm close to the friends that I grew up with, and that there's a strong environmental community that has welcomed me in. And I would say for anyone listening, wherever they are, find a community in your city, in your town, in your township, wherever it may be, that you're passionate about. And if it doesn't exist, then make one, because I can guarantee you there's somebody else, even if it's one other person, there's somebody else there that's probably as passionate about what you're passionate, and, would be happy to get involved. Um, and what do I like to do for fun? I like to work on my podcast. Yeah, for me, fun is honestly working on my business and managing that, and doing courses, self-improvement. I don't watch a lot of TV. I try not to. I try to limit that to like an hour a day, if that. Sometimes I binge. I'm not perfect, of course. Sometimes I like a good show and I'll watch the whole thing. Oh, I love it. But no, I like to limit that. But a thing that I do enjoy for fun that is not related to directly to revenue generation from AL Media, but it's something that I enjoy for having interesting conversations such as this with yourself. I'm sure you can relate, Kevin. But is making my own podcast, The Creative Kind, where I speak with creative entrepreneurs and business leaders. And um, in the future, I'd love to have you as a guest as well. I think that would be cool and kind of full circle.
Yeah, I'm always open to sharing my story, and I want to thank you for sharing yours. But just before we go, how can people get in contact with you if they want to connect, Alex?
Yeah, absolutely. So the best way, Kevin, that any of your listeners can reach out to me, I would say is threefold. You can you can find me on Instagram at Alex Leonard. That's spelled Leonard Media. So that's at Alex Leonard Media. It's the same on Facebook for my professional page. You can find me on LinkedIn, and that's Alexander Leonard. If you wanted to see more of my work, whether it's the murals, the videos, or a teaser of the documentary, which will be coming out in mid-2021, Humans and Elephants, you can visit alexleonardmedia.com.
Fantastic, Alex. I want to take a few seconds to thank you for making some time to share your entrepreneurial journey with me tonight. I really enjoyed our conversation, and I want to thank you for being here tonight. It's most appreciated.
My absolute pleasure, Kevin. Thank you so much for having me on the show. I was super excited to come here and to speak with you. And yeah, I hope to speak with you on my podcast in the next year. And we can, I can learn more about you because you had very insightful questions. And it's always nice to speak to someone who does their research as well. So I really appreciated that too.
And there's nothing wrong with the power of research, Alex.
No, absolutely not.
Hey, thanks so much, and have a great day, okay?
All right. You as well, man. Enjoy the rest of your evening.
Fantastic, Alex. We're done. That was so much fun.